Hi friends, I am Dr. Pratap Singh Rathod. I have done MD in Voice Medicine, and today we'll discuss about identification of sex, particularly identification of sex in dead. Identification of sex becomes difficult as body becomes in advanced decomposition where facial features are lost. In advanced decomposition, sex can be determined by identifying the uterus or prostate. Presence of uterus usually indicates that the dead body is of female, and presence of prostate indicates the dead body is of male in origin. In case of skeletonization, where body is completely skeletonized, Krogman predicted that if entire skeleton is present, 100% of chances is there to determine the sex. Only in pelvis and skull, 98% of cases, sex can be determined. In only pelvis, 95% cases. In skull, 90%. And in long bones, 80% of cases, sex can be determined. Now coming to differentiating between male and female skull. In male skull, usually there is large, heavy and rugged. In female, it is small, thin, lighter and smoother appearance. Forehead is receding. In males, it is vertical. In females, capacity is larger in males, it is less in females. Labella is prominent, it is less prominent in females. Supraorbital ridges is prominent and it is less prominent in females. Frontal ejection is distinct angulation is seen. It is smoothly curved in females. Orbits are square, rounded or margins are seen. In females, it is rounded, sharp margins are seen. This can be seen in cases like this can be seen in this image. Like as I mentioned, the forehead is usually if you see the forehead is receding in males, it is vertical in females. Supraorbital edges are prominent, and this is less prominent in females. The orbit foramina, this orbit is usually square in shape, but it is rounded in females. Labella is prominent, it is not prominent. The frontal nasal junction, that is presence of frontal nasal junction is prominent, it's less prominent in females. Other differences includes frontal and parietal prominence is less prominent in males, it is more prominent in females. Zygomatic arch is prominent in males, it is less prominent in females. Occipital area is prominent, it is less not prominent in females. Mastoid process is large, round and blunt. It is small and smooth. Digastric groove is deep and it is shallow. Condylar facet is long and narrow, it is short. Palate is large and U-shaped. It is small and parabolic, that is like a parabola. It is U-shaped in like this in males. Foramen magnum is relatively large and it is smaller in female skulls. External outer meatus, that is, it is bony ridges are prominent. It is often absent in females. Again, you can see in that same features you can see in the image where the frontal parietal prominence is prominent in females, not so prominent in males. Then mastoid process is prominent here. You can see this is pointed. It's less not so pointed and smooth in females. Other features are usually not so commonly cannot be differentiated. Now coming to differentiating between male and female mandibles. Male mandibles is larger and thicker. It is smaller and thinner. Chin is square and rounded in females. Angle is between body and ramus is less obtuse. It is more obtuse in females. Body and height of symphysis is greater and smaller in females. Ascending ramus is greater breadth, it's smaller breadth in females. Muscular markings are prominent, it's not prominent in females. Ramus flexure is rarer angulated and is straight in females. So features include like the external feature that is square, chin is square, it is rounded in females. The angle which is formed from body and the ramus is usually less than 125 degrees. It is more in females. Then body's ramus flexure is usually it is angulate. It is as less. It is more angulated. It is straight in ramus is green. These are the features of male and female mandible. Now coming to differentiating male and female pelvis. If we go for general features, it is usually massive and rougher in males. It is less massive and slender in females. The shape is like a deep funnel. It is like a flat ball in females. Pre-alveolar sulcus is deep funnel in the sense that it looks like a U-shaped, but it is a flat ball in females. And preacocercus is not frequent and narrow in males, it is more frequent in broad and deep in females. Acetabulum is larger, it is smaller. Obturator foramina is large and oval, and it is smaller and triangular in females. Getaceated notch is narrow, deep and small. It is broad, shallow and large in females. Iliopectineal line is well marked, rough in females. It is rounded and smooth in females. Ischial tuberosity is inverted, that is towards the median line. It is averted in females. Body of pubis is narrow and triangular. It is broad, square, and pits are present in posterior surface. It is seen only in cases of pregnancy. So, if the female, if she has delivered that vaginal birth she has given, there is a presence of pits on the posterior surface of body of pubis. Next, that is subpubic angle, that is V-shaped and sharp, that is 70 to 75 degrees seen. It is U-shaped in and rounded and broader angle, it is 90 to 100 degrees. Pelvic brim is heart-shaped and it is circular aptic shaped. Pelvic cavity is conical or funnel shaped. It is broad and rounded shaped in females. Pelvic outlet is smaller. It is larger in females. Sacroiliac articulation is extended to 2 to 2.5 to 3 vertebrae. It is 2 to 2.5 vertebrae. Coccyx are less movable. It is more movable in females to give birth, helping giving birth. So in the image, from this image you can see that subpubic angle is 70 to 75 degrees in this is male, and it is more obtuse, that is about 100 to 110 degrees. This inlet you can appreciate, it is rounded in shape, it is more like heart shaped. It's inlet. Outlet, if you see from down, it will be like a circular only, and it is more like a cone shape. So if we go from outlet to inlet, the outlet of male is like a heart shaped, then it goes like down and it is a smaller in males. In females, the inlet is circular and the canal is like a cone and it ends like a cone only. So this helps in for pregnancy. So this is like cross section of from outlet inlet to outlet. And sacroiliac line is prominent, preacocercus is prominent in males and females. Then obturator foramina is rounded, it is more angulated in males. It is obturator foramina. And body of pubis is smaller and it's more prominent. Large, small is broader and it's more broader in females. Coming to male and female sacrum, it is usually larger and heavier in males. It is smaller and less lighter in females. Breadth of the body of first is more than the breadth of the one side of ala. It is less than breadth of the one side of ala. That is, if you see the image, the breadth which is seen here is more in males. It is less in females. Then inner curvatures, it is uniformly curved anteriorly. That is curvature, it is anteriorly curved. It is curved inwards, but it is not so curved, it is straight in males. Sacroiliac articulation, it extends up to third segment, it extends up to 2.5 segment. Sacroiliac joint is less sharply angulated, it is L-shaped and elevated anteriorly in females. So the breadth is larger in males, then angulation is straight, angulation is present in females, that you should know. Next, coming to pelvic indices. So these are helpful for again identification of sex. So in sacral index, it is breadth by length into 100 if it is done. Usually it is 105 in males and it is 115 in females. Ischio-pelvic index, that is when pubic length is divided by ischial length and multiplied by 100, it is less than 84 and more than 88 in females, usually in Negros. And in Caucasians, the ischio-pubic index is less than 90 in males and more than 95 in females. Now coming to differentiation between male and female femur, it is longer in males, it is shorter in females, it is heavier, rougher, more muscular markings is seen in males, it is lighter, smooth and less developed in females. Shaft is less oblique, more oblique in females. Head of femurs is larger, smaller in females. Linea aspera is more marked and less marked in females. Trochanterus are more prominent, less prominent in females. It is femoroneck angle is more than 125 in males, it is less than 125 in females. So it is a femoral neck angle. It is more than 125 in males. It is less in females. The head is shorter in smaller in females. It is head is larger in males. Then trochanter's are prominent. Trochanter's are less prominent in females. Now coming to lastly medical importance of sex. So why the sex determination is important in medical legally? So one is for marriage. So since marriage is between male and female, so identification of sex becomes important. If the person is of intersex conditions, then it has to be first be confirmed, then only marriage can be done. In case of divorce, if the person is claims to be male and after marriage, if the person is of sexing is female, concealed sex is there, then it is a condition for divorce. Then also it's condition of for nullity of marriage. If there are both the sex are present, then the marriage can be nullified. Inheritance. So usually this is not applicable nowadays, but usually the inheritance is given to male children, but usually nowadays it is not so prominent. In case of rape, where rape is defined as male for in female sexual intercourse, but it is not so prominent nowadays also. In case of maternity and paternity, where if the person is of age dysgenesis, where the person cannot beget a child, the person cannot claim that can be a parent of any sex, any child. In case of employment or contesting of elections or any other conditions where sex determination is important, like in army where males are only recruited in previously, but nowadays it's not so prominent now. All the both sexes are recruited, but it was usually present where sex determination was important in certain employment conditions. These are my references. Thank you.